Uh, KCRC crawler here. What's up and how's everybody doing? Been a while since I've done a setup video, and I figured the vehicle I've been doing for such a long, or running for such a while now, consistently, has been my bouncer. I've done a couple things here and there to it, like changing wheelbases back and forth, and should say changing wheelbases and getting it where I want, and then changing axles back and forth because I have two sets of Vanquish axles, and I switch those back from this and my Ultra 4 19 Wraith, which you guys probably know if you watched any of my prior videos. But anyways, I figured I'll do a setup video on this. Now I just panels are homemade, but I just, as you can see, it's real shiny and clean right now. I just repainted my panels and rewired them back on. This is just picture wire that I use to hold my panels on, since it doesn't have tabs, or it doesn't have welded on nuts, so I can put hardware on. But this works plenty good, and once you get a little further away, they get a little less noticeable. So in running videos and stuff like that, even pictures, pretty hard to notice them unless you're really looking. Anyways, the chassis is a Donald Jenkins chassis. It's I can't remember which kit it is. I believe this chassis runs about $300. What's touching the ground? We've got RC four-wheel drive boggers that are cut, and they're put on backwards now because they just, after I've rolled the tire forward, and go on the regular rotation, the edge gets rolled down. I start flipping them just to keep even wear, and this is where we're at right now. So the wheels that they're on is some 19 eBay machete wheels. Freaking great, really like them. They're attached to, on the front axle, or the front axle is Vanquish SCX-10 F9 with Vanquish silver hubs, or knuckles. The hubs are integrated on these knuckles. It's running universals in there. Servo is a Savix 1283 SG. Super strong servo for what voltage it runs. It's only running 6 volts, and it's a little over 400 inch ounces. Shocks. Oh, we get a little. There we go. The shocks are Proline Pro Spec scalar shocks. They're the 110 millimeter version. So I'm running those on both sides on the front. I'm running Hot Racing 100 millimeter limiter straps because they stretch a little bit. Onto the back side, we're running a SCX-10 Vanquish Rock Jock axle. These things are freaking awesome. Same shocks as in the front. Same limiter straps as well, 100 millimeter Hot Racing limiter straps. I'm using Vanquish twin hammer trailing arms. Let's see, another homemade panel. I got a Proline fuel cell in there with the Proline NOS bottle, and I guess we'll call those fuel pumps. Got a WCW wrestler in there, or WE wrestler, whatever you want to call him, with an axial steering wheel attached to the stud that Donald Jenkins includes on his chassis. The seat is homemade. It's made of the same material as the panels. It's 025 aluminum. The seat that I made for the guy actually wraps around his torso, and he's got head restraints, which is pretty funny because the old helmet that the driver was wearing was white, and it has wear marks on the side of the helmet. Pretty noticeable. Even on the inside of this, the paint's been completely wore off, and it's all silver from his head banging around back and forth, which I thought was pretty cool. Let's see. Inside, we're running a Mamba X of Futaba receiver, 4-channel receiver. Working pretty close quarters in here. As you can see, the spur gear right here, I barely fit the tip of my finger, barely my nail in between the speed control and the spur gear, but it fits. Clears just fine. The on-off switch is still in there. I just put a brand new, to me, Tekin Pro 4 3300 kV motor, which I'm going to be running on 3S, which is right here. It's a Boca batteries, 1900 milliamp hours. I believe it's a 80 and 160 surge discharge. So let's go ahead and flip it over. We're running a race skid plate. Let's see if we can get this thing to focus here. Running a race skid plate, custom links on the top and bottom of the front. This is a 3/16 inch plated steel rod, solid rod that I cut off to length. Then I bevel the end to a 45-degree angle. I thread it by hand. And then these are Traxxas Revo rod ends. I think it's part number 5347 or something like that. Anyways, I actually take a drill and a tap, and I drill and tap these out so the threads match the threads on my rod, or my links. Drive shaft is the Incision STX-10-2 drive shafts. I run the rear on the front and the front on the rear. I'm running let's see if you can see it. I doubt it, but it's in there. Running where are we at? It's a race transmission in there, hot racing case, Robinson Racing output gear, or from the front and rear output gear. It's a solid one piece. The rest of the gears are steel. That transmission case is solid. I really like it. What else? I think I about covered it. Like I said, the panels are all homemade. Here, let's take this off. I ran into the problem at first because obviously this has been somewhat of an undertaking. It really is a pain in the butt to work on if you guys have never worked on one. So there's the battery. Now, if you can see back in here, you notice that you can only see the shiny part, or the reflection of the hood. That's because there's a little firewall there, the shiny piece of metal. I actually cut it out to fit in here, and it folds up underneath the dash and against it. So that way, the battery, let's see if I can show an example. That way, we don't accidentally get that. Because what was happening is my battery was sliding back in there, and it was stopping by hitting the rail, but the wire was still barely touching the spur gear, and it was starting to grind through it. So yeah, made a little firewall there, which worked out quite well. I don't know if you, yeah, that's the firewall right there. So pretty cool. The bottom tray in there too, that everything sits on, like the driver, and it actually slides in through the window, sets in flat, nice and flat, and then has the only tabs that are on here for other than the shock tabs are right here for a bottom plate, which, like I said, I custom made, and bam, it's bolted in 4 spots. And then the driver's seat, which he is zip tied to, the driver's seat is bolted in with 2 bolts and 2 lock nuts. So, and then you can see his seatbelt right there. No need for shoulder straps. He stays really nice and tight. I actually don't even believe there's any clearance on his head. His helmet touches just barely. he's the perfect fit. I can't find